Distinguished representative of Somalia. You have the floor, sir.
Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me to address the Assembly on behalf of the Somali delegation. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Excellencies, colleague delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On this year's theme of crisis resilience and recovery, promoting progress towards the 2030 agenda, Somalia remains ardent to accelerating achievements towards the Sustainable Development Goals. With global signs of progress in technology, Somalia's stance to improve accessibility and affordability of digital services is at the core of the ICT agenda of the Second Committee. Similarly, the youth agenda represents a beacon of optimism, with estimates that over 70% of the country's youth are youth. We are not only the future, but also we are the present. Moreover, in addressing the committee's work on agriculture, with roughly 50% of the population's cereal requirements being met through agriculture in Somalia, steps are being taken to improve biodiversity and achieve sustainable cultivation through promoting microeconomic standards and improving the livelihoods of civilians. We also acknowledge the statements delivered by representatives of the G77 plus China and similarly the African group on this agenda item and others, and align ourselves with the statements delivered during the work of the Assembly. Madam Chair, in the committee's work of poverty reduction, the National Social Protection Policy is in place to enable the federal government of Somalia to guarantee a fiscal and political margin for the social protection plan and develop a clear and realistic vision of the social protection guide. Comprehensive reforms have allowed us to grow, capitalize, and mobilize on the gains achieved thus far. In lieu to adopting macroeconomic principles addressed in the committee, Somalia has successfully re-engaged with international financial institutions to address various economic challenges and has satisfactorily implemented economic and financial reforms, enhancing state legitimacy and improving macroeconomic management and performance. These reforms address some structural rigidities and institutional limitations, building a more diverse and competitive economy capable of taking advantage of emerging regional trade opportunities is the best route to broadening growth and mobilizing revenue in the medium to long term. Madam Chair, in climate change, the federal government of Somalia's priorities include the protection, conservation, and preservation of the environment against anything that may cause harm to natural biodiversity and the ecosystem. My country's National Development Plan, NDP 9, integrates climate change as a constraint to Pillar 2, improve security and rule of law, and Pillar 3, economic development, and places climate change and recurrent drought as a major cause of poverty. In this regard, NDP 9 prioritizes strengthening the capacity and commitment towards effective environmental governance. Pillar 3 of the NDP places climate change at the core of its priorities, particularly concerning traditional livestock and agricultural livelihoods, heavily reliant on the natural resource base. Madam Chair, this year has been remarkably extraordinary as we build back better from the ramifications of the coronavirus pandemic. Still, as we have achieved the unbelievable developing the impossible cure in under a year, the possible cure of eradicating world poverty and tackling climate change remains out of sight. In that regard, we welcome active and informative discussions over the period of the 76th session of the Second Committee, with the UN's first all-female bureau at its helm. And I assure you of Somalia's full and active participation in the spirit of humanity. I thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the representative of Somalia and